Mr. Vice President, are you ready, sir?
I am here.
Please place your hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I know there's this thing about Joe being a nice man. Forget it. When the bribe comes along from the richest man in Ukraine, he recommends that his son be employed by the crookedest man in Ukraine. Now, let's start off with, if there was such a criminal charge, bad father, he'd be charged with bad father.
What we're doing
Film.
a film.
Yes.
So, and this is a documentary, as usual, because I'm documentarian.
I want to hear from you what this film is about.
The working title for the movie, it is Laptop from Hell. Are you familiar what is Laptop from Hell?
Obviously, I'm very familiar, and we are here to make all our audience familiar with that.
Yes. So, why Minsk?
Because we are interviewing some very special speaker that is in exile right now. You had a huge role into leaking sensitive information, facts of corruption involving the Biden families in this money laundering scheme. Regarding this point precisely, you helped United States start an investigation into Biden's crime in Ukraine by start collaborating with Rudy Giuliani.
Ну, на самом деле я не помогал Соединенным Штатам. Я помогал своей стране Украине расследовать коррупцию. Просто когда ты начинаешь расследовать коррупцию в Украине, ты попадаешь обязательно в историю, связанную с Соединенными Штатами. В этом вся проблема. Все обвинения в вмешательстве в выборы президента Соединенных Штатов – это вранье. Это же не мы пришли и устроили внешнее управление и коррупцию. Это конкретные Байдены, Нуланды, Кенты пришли к нам и устроили схему коррупции.
The UK Serious Fraud Office froze $23 million of a guy named Zlochevsky's assets. He was in charge of Burisma. On April 13th of 2014, Hunter Biden said the contract should start now, not after the upcoming visit of my guy, his guy being the Vice President of the United States.
He keeps lying and saying that there was no investigation of Burisma. A complete lie. On February 1st, 2016, prosecutor's office in Ukraine arrested Burisma. They took all the books. Phew, business stopped. What that generally meant was the government's coming for the whole business. This was Zlochevsky's nightmare.
Mykola Zlochevsky is the founder of Burisma Holding, which is one of the largest private natural gas producers in Ukraine. Burisma Holdings' revenue is hidden behind the web of offshore companies in Cyprus and the British Virgin Islands.
When the laptop popped out on the news, it was shocking. I tended to believe for a minute that maybe it was, some type of Russian disinformation, because that's what the media was feeding me. But then I looked, got access to emails and cross-referenced them with mine. I knew, sooner than anyone that the media was lying to us and that this was directly his laptop. And then there was the confusion and anger of why he would be so careless and disclose all of this information that was highly relevant to, our lives. But it's an absolute embarrassment for an adult with a family and children to have been that careless. So it was almost like that was just like a bit of resentment was built on his absolute stupidity in that act.
The confidential human source has been a trusted informant for the Bureau for over 10 years and describes meetings and conversations he had with people from Burisma Holdings dating back to 2015.
We were lied to in the American public, lied to about the laptop. I don't think the Biden family story is that complicated. Son's making money. Son's company thinks everything's going dandy because they aren't getting prosecuted anymore, and then suddenly they get prosecuted, and dad has to bail son out.
Assuming that there is a new government and a new prosecutor general, I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion.
Despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him to resign.
Now, there's something very important. I knew this to be true all along, but I eventually got the documents. It took me 6 years to get the documents. All throughout the Trump impeachment trial, government officials put their hands up and said, Joe Biden didn't change policy. The career recommendation of the task force, the Ukrainian Anti-Corruption Task Force, which was the Justice Department, State Department, National Security Council, and the FBI, they made recommendations in September and October of 2015 that Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that ultimately gets fired because of Biden's pressure, was doing a good enough job. Last year, we made available documents showing that Joe Biden was told to do the opposite of what he did in Ukraine. These are very important documents. They were so important that Glenn Kessler, the fact checker at the Washington Post, had to reverse course and say I was wrong for 4 years. And he wrote a fact check citing our documents saying, turns out Joe Biden called an audible. He did change the policy.
There was constant pressure to help geopolitics, both domestically with their law enforcement and then kind of on the global stage. So they always wanted Burisma to, be looked at favorably so they could avoid persecution in the press, because as a good global citizen, you tend to have less interference.
Poroshenko fired me at the insistence of the then Vice President Biden because I was investigating Burisma.
First of all, this is the completely crazy person.
Right. What do you mean? He's not your friend?
I don't see him maybe 4 years or something.
Poroshenko was a massive crook. The only question is, did he take $100 million or $200 million? It's obvious if you look at the way the Burisma case was handled, this thing where it was on again, off again, on again, off again. Then he told Shokin, come on, start up the investigation of it. He was playing as Zlochevsky because he wanted to get the maximum amount of money out of him until Obama names Biden as the point man. What's the point man going to do? The point man is going to determine how much money they get. Zlochevsky wanted to save his business. The guy to bribe is Biden, because Biden is more powerful than Poroshenko.
Joe Biden just wanted his son to get back into a good rhythm. He's starting on drugs. He just got kicked out of the Navy. What an embarrassment to the Biden legacy. You got one son who serves in Iraq, dies of cancer, and lives honorably, and the other son gets a chance to be a commissioned Navy officer, and he gets kicked out for cocaine use. When Hunter Biden realizes that what he was being paid to do, protection, wasn't happening, Joe Biden has to step in, and I think that's why the firing of the prosecutor happens. It's obvious what happens.
Участвующих в разворовывании миллиардов денег украинских и американских граждан.
I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new prosecutor general's in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee.
Мы очень много уделяем внимания в этой истории Байдену. Байден один из элементов. Я думаю, что Нуланд,
Yes, I agree.
Виктория Нуланд,
Yes.
она не менее страшный персонаж в истории Украины, а может быть даже более.
And when some of the colored revolutions were going on, the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, and then the Lebanese Revolution, so that was very, very exciting. Revolution, so that was very, very exciting. So that was very, very exciting.
I would like to know your perspective as a visionary since early work with Ukraine on Fire, revealing Ukraine. Whoever watched your work can see the elements that led to this war and much more.
People bring the hell to my country.
This morning, Kiev awoke to the sound of gunfire.
Protesters behind homemade shields walking into live fire.
What we saw here today was a revolution. The second time in a decade, Ukraine has ousted its president, dealing a massive blow to Vladimir Putin's Russia.
Мы считаем, что украинское правительство пришло к власти демократическим путем.
Господин Байден говорил одно, а в Украине делали другое.
We, of course, never choose candidates in any country.
В посольстве Соединенных Штатов существует штаб, который управляет этим процессом.
As the Maidan crisis was getting more violent, there was a phone call that was intercepted. It was a call between the Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt.
I think Yats is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience.
Questions of credibility are being raised after a private chat between two top U.S. diplomats was leaked online.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay. Good. Well, do you want us to try to set up a call with him as the next step?
We, of course, never choose candidates in any country.
This is how it is. When you inserting yourself, projecting your power in some foreign country, you also exposing yourself because you not using like a universal force of projection power, taking this guy and make him here. No, you send in Victoria Nuland, you send in others. Victoria Nuland have a conversation, they calling back and forth, so they exposing themselves. Believe nobody still tell that to the wide audience in the world. That's every time when the United States collude to make a regime change abroad, and it was more than 70 successful collusions, we are exposing ourselves, and they start hitting us back.
The lesson I took is that if you're against the ruling class of this country, you better believe that they're coming. I mean, I'm going to prison on Monday because of this, right? But it doesn't surprise me, it doesn't upset me. It's just part of the process, but they will not change. They're only going to change when they're forced to change.
So you had this remarkable phone call where you have these two senior officials of the U.S. government apparently talking about a coup.
Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying, you need Biden, and I said, probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
They remain very dedicated to achieving their goals.
Fuck the EU.
Victoria Nuland related to that neoconservative, so hawkish. But let's talk about Laptop from Hell. I choose this working title because I want to use these words, what Steve Bannon told Rudy Giuliani. Actually, Emma Moritz tell me this, how that's all happened.
Thanks so much for inviting me. My name is Emma Jo Morris, politics editor at Breitbart. I'm here today because I published a series of news stories 3 years ago in October of 2020 about Hunter Biden's now infamous laptop, also known as the laptop from hell, which is seen as some of the most scandalous reporting of the last decade. What was more scandalous than the reporting itself, though, was the fact that it exposed the unholy alliance between the intelligence community, social media platforms, and legacy media outlets.
I was not the first person that the hard drive was offered to. You know, I was the last person, in fact. I know that Rudy and Bob had tried, several other people. I think Steve Bannon had tried. It was just that I had the relationship with Cole Allen that we managed to get it expedited.
The computer repair shop owner who turned in Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop to the FBI now says he's on the verge of bankruptcy. John Paul Mac Isaac claiming it comes after months of liberal intimidation campaign against him, telling the New York Post, quote, I have been punished for my actions to set an example for anyone else that might try to blow the wrong whistle. Fox News contributor and New York Post columnist Miranda Devine is on the case in her book, Laptop from Hell. and she joins us now. So this really steams me because this guy, in fact, did a favor to the country. He uncovered all of this corruption, many of it having possibly national security implications, and he's harassed, he's got death threats, he's going bankrupt.
His life has been turned upside down. He, to this day, has not got his business back. He had to leave his home in Delaware and go to another state. He's been targeted by death threats and harassment by the IRS and various other agencies.
Its rogue element and its enforcement element is what we call the deep state. And a lot of people, including myself, did not come to that conclusion until actually seeing it. I used to say there's no deep state, they're in your face. When you're in the White House, they're in your grill.
So something has happened in the motorcade booth. Something, I repeat, has...
Trump's teaching us to expect the worst from people in government, when the truth is, they're actually some of our best.
I never imagined that a deep state was so corrupt and so effective that they could cut off a story like this, which was validated 50 different ways. Now, here's what I didn't know. I didn't know that the FBI had actually validated it 8 months ago.
They were spying on Rudy Giuliani's cloud at the time. Perhaps if they were watching to some messages between me and Rudy, which would have given them the idea that the New York Post was going to publish, was interested. You know, I said things like, don't give it to anyone else, Rudy, we're set. If they'd been doing their job, the FBI would have seen the email that came to Rudy in August of 2019 from John Paul Mac Isaac at the computer repair store. And that was a very voluminous and forensic email in which he laid out what he saw as the specific crimes and national security risks, particularly around Ukraine.
A Manhattan judge has thrown out Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy case. The judge found that Giuliani failed to provide the financial transparency required. Giuliani filed for protection after 2 Georgia election workers won a $148 million judgment in a defamation case after the 2020 election. Today's decision now paves the way for them to pursue his assets.
The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding, where I've not been allowed to offer one single piece of evidence in defense, of which I have a lot.
Our country has devolved into a, what the founders never envisioned, is an empire. It's not that they're corrupt and they're a Praetorian Guard and the FBI is like the American Gestapo today. If they just had a level of competence and ability to get ahead of what the real problems facing the nation. If you look at from the cartels to the 9/11 to everything we're into, either intelligence or just on law enforcement, they're never where they're supposed to be.
45th President of the United States asked the man whom he believed, because Rudy was a lawyer and a politician.
I became famous probably putting the mafia in jail. So when I came in to his impeachment situation, 60% of the American people wanted him impeached. What I brought to it was a combination of being a lawyer and a politician.
Because he comes in with 2 machine guns to everything he does.
I mean, I agree. I mean, he is not the guy who is going to be brokering a good deal here.
He tried to see how things could be done rather than finding reasons for not doing them. The really good lawyers are those that spot the issues and then figure out legally how you can accomplish what you want to do.
It's time to make America one again. One America. There's no black America. There's no white America. There is just America. What happened to it?
a big profile like Rudy Giuliani, who took down the mafia mob in New York and represented the great Donald Trump, once and a sudden is targeted, persecuted, and portrayed as an Ukrainian agent. Was it the result of a setup?
This is exactly subject of our investigation in this film.
In 2021, federal prosecutors in New York, an office Giuliani once led, raided his apartment in connection with his business dealings in Ukraine.
A man who, used the RICO statute to put away the five heads of the mafia is now, potentially the subject of a RICO action in Georgia.
And more, Giuliani is suspended from practicing law in New York and facing disbarment in Washington, D.C. for pushing election laws.
It's still going on. This is not go anyway. This is still here. They're suing Rudy for different case, but it is exactly same campaign. Stop people to investigate corruption of sitting president of the United States, Joe Biden, and his family members. We're now talking not about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, it is a character.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely is totally true.
What should people know about Hunter Biden that they don't know?
Like every single person that I've ever known, I have fallen and I've gotten up. I've done estimable things and things that I regret.
In and out of rehab 7, 8 times.
Say it nicer to me.
I think this is a human question.
Yeah.
Do you worry?
No, but for real, let me say something.
Do you worry that all of this noise, even though it's just noise,
no, I don't worry.
I have that hanging in my bedroom, and I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky. I had great kids.
I think the president is a thoroughly dishonest man, right to the core.
Hunter Biden is speaking about one of the strangest events in his train wreck life, his affair with his brother's widow.
A lot of people look at that and think, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Both of us had gone through the most incredibly painful loss. And it was out of love, and I thought that maybe that love would bring my brother back.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He shows up to Washington. They wonder why a crackhead is making millions from the Chinese government, why the grandchildren are making money, the ex-girlfriend, the brother's widow that was also a girlfriend. Everyone's on the Chinese payroll. And yet, I'm the one that did 50 hours of testimony before Congress. I mean, he shows up, he's being terribly treated. I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm the guy that did 50 hours of testimony for treason, so we understand. Treason is a crime punishable by death. Hunter can go there, nothing wrong. Why are you being mean to me? It's like a 40-year-old, 50-year-old baby.
I think Hunter Biden is a disgrace.
Everybody knows what character he is.
Everybody who was a client of this adultery site called Ashley Madison was hacked, and Hunter Biden's credit card details appeared in that hack. He blamed Russia. They blame Russia for everything. They blamed Russia for the laptop. I'm surprised that Russia isn't being blamed for Joe Biden's collapse on the debate stage.
A website that encourages people to cheat on their partners is reeling from a huge data breach. AshleyMadison.com executives confirmed this morning that their website has been hacked.
The Ashley Madison hack happens. And you know whose name was in the database? Hunter Biden. Not only that, his credit card was on file, pictures were on file, photos were on file.
Former Vice President of Sales at Ashley Madison. Evan, thanks a lot for being here. Appreciate it. All right, so it's still wildly popular after a data breach and a doc about it. Is that possible?
The company went down, but it's a comeback story.
As a nation, we are capable from going from strong, structured, creative, powerful leadership on the world stage to becoming a collective clown show like the current administration. full of sycophants and incompetence, as demonstrated by the very questionable election of Joseph Biden. Biden, who in 5 decades of public service and never having a real job, never had a single successful policy decision, and has effectively destroyed the best of American society, leadership, and stability.
You're dealing with a set of just kind of cartoon characters that are like Merrick Garland. These are kind of clowns now, but they have massive power. And why is Crossfire Hurricane so important? Because it goes back to the railhead of who the professionals are. I'll tell you who are not goofballs. Who are not goofballs are British intelligence. These are uber professionals who are thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead, and it makes sense because the United Kingdom, even with the Royal Navy, is quite limited in manpower. You can understand how they control this vast empire with all the Mahan choke points and all the perfect places for commerce in the world. And that's why Crossfire Hurricane starts with and is initiated with, I think, interaction with MI5 and MI6, because the countries in, particularly in Western Europe, and in the Middle East, they don't want the gravy train to end. We have a $1 trillion defense bill where we're underwriting the elites in those countries' defense. They want the working class people in America for their tax money to go towards that, and more importantly, their kids.
But the world and its majority knows that a strong, focused, and capable United States is the best and last great hope for Western civilization and freedom for all people. Once we remove the treasonous elected leaders from office, impose term limits, and have a better vetting process for electoral candidates, ensure corruption-free elections, remove the federal government from our education system, enforce laws equally instead of benefiting the liberals such as Hillary Clinton, Hunter and Joe Biden, BLM, and Antifa, our nation will recover on all fronts.
I'm small, I'm little, I'm filmmaker. I don't do politics. I do films. But as a journalist, my goal is exactly the same. That's Robert Perry tell me that. My duty as an American journalist to inform Americans not about constructed narrative what mainstream media planted in their minds, but about what is going on for real in this country. In the United States already, not in Ukraine. This is why it's important for me.
The role of an American journalist, in my view, is to inform the American people as best you can what you're able to find out, and to not be afraid of the kind of attacks that come with that.
I mean, you wrote a number of things about the laptop issue, about Hunter Biden, all kinds of things. You wrote critical of the Biden family, the Biden business operation, the Biden brand, and all that stuff.
Congressman, I reported out the facts of the story.
You sure did. You sure did. You reported the facts. And then CBS fired you, is that right?
My position was terminated.
We do know is they seized your documents. That's scary as well. And you talk about a chilling effect on the First Amendment, I don't know how it could be more chilling.
They call it journalism a profession for a reason, because it's about an informed electorate, and it's a cornerstone of our democracy. I can only speak for myself. When my records were seized, I felt it was a journalistic rape.
This is such an important aspect of democracy, being able to make sure that government and political leaders, business leaders are held accountable and that their secrets can be brought to light when they need to be. So just the fact that we're having this conversation, I think, helps a lot to educate the public. If you think about how this country started, it was things like Thomas Paine's pamphlets that rose an entire country up to fight tyranny and become a country itself. And yet today, so much of newspapers has become myopic. We either analyze what happened yesterday or we write about what we think is going to happen tomorrow. And so few people are trying to find out what really is going on. What did the FBI discover? They discovered that they were my source. Not only on Russia collusion, which was kind of obvious from my reporting, but the early Ukraine stuff had come from FBI sources who had seen all this evidence. Hunter Biden's doing this and no one's prosecuting him. And they dumped that story on me. And it takes me months to get it because I'm very careful. I don't report things I know. But the government, very quickly after I began cooperating with the U.S. Attorney's Office, realized, holy shit, the whole theory of the case is wrong. Everything that Lev Parnas has told is wrong. We gave this stuff to him. My lawyer told me, it's like, he delivered the documents, like, are you telling us we were the source for John's story? Like, take a look at the documents. That's when the government shut down the Rudy Giuliani investigation.
Now, the mafia was very difficult because for an organized crime group, even historically, no other organized crime group in America had ever achieved what I would call institutional integration with tentacles, like an octopus. Now, when you're dealing with the deep state that we're dealing with now, it's the mafia, I would say the mafia on steroids.
Yes.
So the mafia didn't have a CIA.
Absolutely.
The mafia didn't have an FBI.
That is a combination of law enforcement, a weaponized DOJ and FBI, a combination of different elements of DNI, the 17 intelligence agencies we have that cost almost $1 trillion a year when you really add it up, and the Pentagon and other aspects of the intelligence community. That forms this kind of deep state, which is going to roll like they're going to roll.
В год выборов поразил цинизм, как с помощью украинской власти, с помощью НАБУ и Соросят влияли на ситуацию выборов в Соединенных Штатах. Я такого цинизма, честно говоря, давно не видел. И как, собственно говоря, пошла история с Манафортом и нашего расследования, как это все происходило.
Wanted to get Paul Manafort to say, whether it was true or not, that Trump was getting money from or giving money to Putin, which is completely crazy.
But how this will affect Ukraine in the long run?
Remember, Ukraine has all this evidence that Zelensky is covering up.
Leverage.
And Zelensky is the product of one of the most crooked men in Ukraine, a man named Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky was the head of Privat Bank. Privat Bank was the biggest money laundering bank in Ukraine. So Kolomoisky has amassed a fortune of $20 or $30 billion, laundering illegal payments for politicians all over the world.
Story was elevated by that Ukrainian oligarch, Igor Kolomoisky. He was upset. They fired him. They called and said, look, all your assets here. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
And it will be all frozen, sanctioned and confiscated.
Я не буду разглашать подробности нашего частного разговора с Коломойским, но мне кажется, он понимает, Украина живет в других реалиях.
They said, no, this is our set, this is we working this movie here in Ukraine, not you gonna be choosing who will be our lead speaker.
Kolomoisky continued his business activities, later moving to Switzerland. Zelensky traveled to Geneva in February 2018 to attend Kolomoisky's birthday party. In April 2019, RFE/RL asked Kolomoisky about his ties with Zelensky.
По зустрічам з Зеленським он у меня был на дне рождения в прошлом году в Женеве.
But by checking flight records, RFE/RL discovered that after that birthday party, Zelensky flew to Geneva another 10 times. Furthermore, after Kolomoisky moved to Israel, Zelensky flew to Tel Aviv 3 times between October and December 2018. It's not clear if the two men met on these occasions.
Do you believe Zelensky was ever genuine in his intention for the country, or if yes, when and why did he switch?
Смотрите, никогда, начиная с 2014 года, политика на Украине или политики на Украине не были самостоятельными. И таких Зеленских было несколько на самом деле. Так же, как и сейчас существует несколько вариантов замены Зеленского, как отыгранного...
Same acting skills, though?
Президент України.
In the popular Ukrainian TV show, Servant of the People, he played another unlikely president. There's one really good reason why, even in peacetime, many wondered whether Volodymyr Zelensky had what it took to lead his country. His preparation for the job was pretending to lead his country.
Now I'm very popular in USA.
I have no doubts that he gonna fail. I know the man before. I know his qualities. He's not a president, he is not a statesman. And as my teacher, Oliver Stone, tell me, the politics, it's a game for the big, tough guys, not for the nice-looking people. Zelensky is a nice guy.
Zelensky's showbiz career was all comedy and light entertainment, including playing Paddington Bear in the movie franchise's Ukrainian release. Somehow, that path has led him to the role of wartime president.
Thank you very much. I welcome all who stand for common efforts, and I promise...
It's, sorry, how he said before, how he sound before, how he sound now. Zelensky was doomed to fail from the very beginning, as well as Maidan and our doomed to fail sooner or later, better sooner, because then sooner that shit happened, then more Ukrainians will survive. All these people from first leadership of Maidan, what they did to Ukraine, this is unimaginable.
Why we're in Ukraine, I think, is even deeper than Biden skimming and taking money. There's something very dark about Ukraine, what went on in Ukraine, who was involved in it. I think over time, after we, I believe, stop the funding and President Trump helps to end the war, because Professor Mersheimer said 10 years ago that the elites in the West are going to lead the Ukrainian people down the primrose path to their own destruction.
The West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path, and the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked.
Всю свою жизнь я прожила при войне. Мне 8 лет, я не знаю, когда мирное время, ну, я не знаю. Взрослые дяди, которые строили войну, они должны ее прекратить. Она уже длинная, сильная. Надо уже как-то заканчивать с этим.
In your opinion, is Ukrainian and Russian people the same nation?
Я считаю, что да. 12 миллионов жителей Украины имеют родственников на территории России и Беларуси. То есть можно придумывать мифы исторические, можно рассказывать там альтернативную историю для молодого поколения, но то поколение, которое застало период там, Советского Союза, ранней независимости Украины, оно же четко понимает, откуда корни. Ну, вы с этим сталкиваетесь в Соединенных Штатах. У вас тоже происходит борьба со своей историей. Сносятся точно так же памятники, вычеркиваются имена. Кто-то пытается из консерваторов сохранять традиции и бороться, но, к сожалению, ястребы-глобалисты, для них, как и, собственно говоря, для коммунистов в определенное время, да, это важный момент, это борьба за революцию и победа революции пролетарской во всем мире, да. То есть придумывают какой-то миф, цель и стремятся к этой цели.
Obama moved us very much toward communism and socialism. Obama was trained for that by communists and socialists. I mean, nobody wants to tell you this, but I mean, he was trained by communists, as was Hillary. She was trained by communists. Saul Alinsky is a communist.
You know, you seem like a man who has no love or none of these feelings or anything, isn't sensitive.
I have a hell of a lot more love than you have because I'm willing to go out and get corrupted for it. I'm willing to fight for it. I'm willing to stick my life on a line on it. And you're just willing to stick around and talk about love and hippies and not do a goddamn thing.
Yeah, but that's not true.
But once an organization is established, once it is fighting its own battles effectively, then the Alinsky men will pack up and move on.
Now, Marxist political theorist Saul Alinsky, he understood, like Karl Marx, whose theories he sought to implement, that hate is one of those powerful of human emotions. People need little encouragement to hate. It comes natural to us. It's actually quite frightening.
Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization. George Soros is the principal source of funds. The whole purpose of it is to make them powerful. Patrisse Cullors makes no pretense that she isn't anything other than a trained Marxist. She's already a millionaire.
Anarchists linked to Antifa came in for particular criticism.
There is a huge separation. You are racist. They're giving a speech about Black lives, but yeah, you want to destroy on behalf of Black lives, and now one person over there is black.
So familiar for me to see that patterns in the United States, when this happened in Ukraine, when the people choosing, and after that they doing all the exactly same. They using exactly same developed in Ukraine technology of manipulation, media, and big tech.
That big tech was working closely with Democrats ahead of the election.
There was a lot of censorship, and a lot of censorship was, some of it was obvious, a lot of it was hidden. Important information has been withheld, which obviously was the case, in the infamous Hunter Biden laptop situation.
Now we need to start looking at Facebook, at Google. These now have become arms of the Democratic Party, arms of the Biden administration.
The Twitter files shared with journalist Matt Taibbi, who unleashed a long thread on the site, includes emails detailing requests made to Twitter to delete tweets from the, quote, Biden team. The reply would come back handled. It also shows decisions to remove links to the Hunter Biden laptop story and of officials blocking transmission via direct message, a tool usually reserved for extreme cases like child pornography. At the time, met with reactions like this.
Never before have we seen active censorship of a major press publication with serious allegations of corruption of one of the two candidates for president.
I don't think they should have gone as far as put him on the board. The idea of engaging him as counsel was enough, and we would have been able to not garner as much attention.
So we can summarize that for Burisma, that was a question of survival.
Burisma only survived
because of him.
Because of him, yes.
Now there are renewed questions about why 50 former intelligence officials signed this letter, suggesting the laptop story had the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation.
On October 19th, 5 days after the Post began publishing, Politico ran a story headlined, Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say. God, I can't even say that with a straight face, Politico printed a letter completely uncritically from veteran members of the U.S. intelligence community, falsely claiming that the Post expose has, quote, all of the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. My God.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
They were later labeled as spies who lie.
Our federal agencies, those former intelligence officials, they had a far greater impact on the 2020 election. They interfered with it to a far greater extent than anything Russia ever could have hoped to accomplish.
Obviously Russia's been accused and over and over again of interference in the 2016 election. As far as I know, there's no proof, and it hasn't turned up. But now in the U.S., there's been investigation going on about Ukraine's interference in the election. It was a very confusing situation. Poroshenko seems to have been very strongly pro-Clinton, anti-Trump.
Да, здесь секрета никакого нет.
Do you think there was interference?
Я не думаю, что это можно трактовать как вмешательство со стороны украинского государства. Но точно совершенно украинские олигархи деньги передавали оппонентам Трампа. Делали они это самостоятельно, либо с ведома властей, я не знаю.
Were they giving information to the Clinton campaign?
Я не знаю этого, честно. Я не буду говорить того, чего я не знаю. У меня своих проблем хватает.
Yeah, I know.
Но они исходили из того, что госпожа Клинтон победит, и все делали для того, чтобы продемонстрировать свою лояльность будущим американским властям. Вот, здесь ничего такого особенного нет. Пытались создать уже благоприятное о себе мнение у будущего президента. Поэтому они позволяли себе нелицеприятные выражения в отношении Трампа и всячески поддерживали демократов. Это никакой здесь секрета никакого нет. Они почти публично действовали.
Doesn't want to go any further on that. Doesn't have any information.
Вы знаете, это было бы с моей стороны некорректно. Если я бы сейчас сказал более что-то конкретное, я должен был положить на стол какие-то документы, бумаги.
You understand that it has huge implications because Mr. Trump would be very grateful.
Я и тогда не вмешивался, сейчас не хочу вмешиваться, и в будущем не собираюсь.
But that's a noble motive. Unfortunately, the world has degenerated in these 2 years to a place where all these backbiting accusations, dirty fighting, anyway.
Вообще без правил.
No rules.
Бои без правил.
Donald Trump is in the building, and the former president getting a standing ovation from the assembled masses.
hand and the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
Say hello to Oyster Bunnies. Come on up, Bunnies. Get up here so they can see you.
Well, you had a sneaking suspicion that former President Trump would be in the building for UFC 302. He is...
Don't tell Mommy what I told you.
Back-to-back years for the UFC here in Newark, New Jersey. The fan response has been absolutely insane.
More than half the women in my cabinet, more than half the people in my cabinet, more than half of the women in my administration are women. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to. Anyway. I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With the idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers. President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
After the debate, Mr. Biden was asked how he thought it went.
I think he did well.
Joe Biden, when he announced that he was running, actually wrote a letter to the press specifically asking them to keep me off television. And I know why he did. Because he knew that I had information nobody else had.
But hiding this type of information from the mainstream media isn't election interference?
Of course it is. It's completely criminal.
What you see on Fox and a lot of MSNBC, it's just pro wrestling. It's not relevant to what the real story is. The real story here is about concentration of wealth and power. And the top 1% now own 90% of the country. We have a capitalist system, or a late-stage capitalist system, with no capitalist. 90% of the people in our country have no skin in the game, no piece of the action. It's all been concentrated, and until you break the ruling class in this country, and you're gonna have to break them because they're just not gonna sit there and go, oh, this is a great idea, maybe MAGA ought to take over. They're gonna rule this country with an iron grip.
It's a clear violation of the First Amendment for the government to be coercing private companies to censor Americans. You would hope that the Supreme Court does come down with a ruling that does protect free speech. So when you have a whole lot of judges who are partisan and are not treating Lady Justice with a blindfold, you get a corrupted system.
If somebody knows what's going to happen in Ukraine in the 30 years after this great event of independence, believe me or not, more than half will choose not to be Ukrainians. I'm still Ukrainian citizen. I still believe that war needs to be stopped. But war never stopping because I believe or not, you need to do something. What I can do to stop the war? I can help people to stop financing of this war.
Since 2022, Congress has directed more than $113 billion in aid in 4 packages to Ukraine.
The phrase implies that all of the money is going to Ukraine, but in fact, about 60% of it is spent in the United States.
More than half of the appropriated aid is allocated for U.S. military operations and weapons contracts. As aid in Ukraine looks to run out, President Zelensky has met with lawmakers in Washington to lobby for more funding. House Republicans have refused to pass the additional spending bill until they reach an agreement to increase security at the U.S.-Mexico border.
If President Biden wants a supplemental spending bill focused on national security, it better begin by defending America's national security.
The big concern is that U.S. weapons could end up in the wrong hands.
So far, Congress has given the Ukrainian government nearly $174 billion in munitions and so-called aid. Then you add another $60 billion that Joe Biden gave to Zelensky, and the total is over $230 billion. And that's just the money that was publicly appropriated that we can account for. There's a lot more than that.
But this is a different subject matter. Let's come back
Let's come back to the subject matter of this film, which is Laptop from Hell, which is a hell of a project, by the way. Don't you think that the criminals should be prosecuted rather than the whistleblower being persecuted?
We're not living in a perfect world. We're living in a real world. In the real world, people who's doing corruption sitting in the White House, ruling the country. In the real world, people who killing their own citizens sitting in a Bankova street in Kiev. The attempt to bring the justice, or even just to investigate that, to bring the justice, leading to horrible sanctions and you pronounce be wanted and etc., etc. This is not justice at all.
Are you afraid of being targeted because of that?
I'm not. What is better if they target me and kill me? I'm filmmaker, small one. It's 1,000 of us. We will still do our job. They will not kill us all. It's impossible. But until they will try to intimidate us, killing one of us, that happens all the time. They not succeed with intimidation.
Let's get back to Rudy Giuliani. How Rudy Giuliani got involved into exposing Biden corruption in Ukraine?
First of all, the great man.
Absolutely.
And the man who bring down 5 mafia family in New York, who actually make New York livable again. And New Yorkers will love him. Maybe not that New Yorkers would live in New York now, because it's a shitty place, sorry to say.
He came down on crime like nobody's business. A lot of people kind of criticized him because maybe he was too hard on certain groups of people, but it worked.
And I was a victim of the crime before he came in, so I know that crime was definitely up before he came in. And so he cleaned a lot of crime-ridden areas. He really did.
He left the city in very good shape. He handed the reins over to Michael Bloomberg. So in terms of being a mayor, I think he did a fantastic job.
But what Rudy did, why Rudy? Why exactly Rudy?
God gives you certain talents. Whether people will like to believe it or not, I have a complete dedication to justice. That's why I did what I did. I looked at things like the mafia or Wall Street, or I prosecuted 2 Nazi war criminals that had gotten away with it for 30 years. And I said, this is what I'm good at. This is what I can do. And I'm not going to let people frighten me from doing it. Otherwise, what good am I? Well, the same thing, I approached this case exactly the same way. Whether you like it or not, I volunteered to help Donald Trump because I felt he was an innocent man being charged with something that wasn't true. I have been proven right about that. That was the charge of Russian collusion. That has been proven 40 different ways to be untrue. I'm telling the truth about that. All these people that are going after me are completely lying about it. They're lying to the point that Hillary Clinton paid to create it. They used it to try to remove a lawfully elected president on false evidence, which they all should be in jail for that.
What's known about the source of the documents? They were apparently compiled by a former British intelligence official, Christopher Steele, who's director of a private investigations company called Orbis. One source tells the Wall Street Journal that the firm was hired to investigate Trump by both Republican and Democratic opponents. But to this date, no one has been able to verify them.
It is absolutely clear that the individual who produced this dossier has not worked for the UK government for years.
For legal purposes, they've become quasi-government agencies. Big tech and the media. They just run off Democrat talking points. Who put it together? Clinton administration originally put it together. And over the years, it's gotten better and better. And then negative force affected it greatly when Trump became president, because they were afraid for their lives when Trump became president. They were afraid for their lives because he was the one candidate they couldn't control.
They wanted to get rid of Donald Trump, the president, because to them, he was an existential threat to them and their power and their unlimited control over American foreign policy. He's not a puppet of the blob. He does not do what the CIA and the Pentagon tell him to do, like Joe Biden does. Joe Biden has no agency. He is brainwashed from his earliest days in the Senate to be on their side, to be a puppet, to do what they want. Most presidents just go along with what the blob wants.
People have to understand, hopefully in your film, the use of terms Republican and Democrat are just, that's pro wrestling down the front, and that is to divide us. You have a ruling class in this country that rules by money and technology. It is Wall Street, the City of London, and Silicon Valley, okay? They have court jesters in Hollywood, in the media, and all that, and they have up here a uniparty. It's elite merger.
How can any attorney general, any DA with a straight face go after Trump on these charges?
Because they have the majority of the press on their side, and they don't get held accountable.
How it was from the perspective when you publish in the Watergate story is nobody picking up? How do you feel?
Well, I think what was really shocking was the fact that within hours of our story going live, we kept it till 5 a.m. rather than the usual publishing the night before online. Within hours that morning, Facebook and Twitter censored the story. They throttled it. They said that Facebook said they needed to do fact-checking on it. They never did any fact-checking. Twitter described it as violating their hacked materials policy, and that reflected the lies that they'd been told by the FBI about a hack and leak operation which looked exactly like our story.
Republicans do not want an open process where Americans can see their tactics, expose their baseless inquiry, or hear what I have to say. What are they afraid of?
Why not testify now, sir? Why not testify now?
Hunter Biden walked out of the hearing just as Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene began to speak.
The question there is, what are they afraid of? What are they afraid of?
Can be that even slight probability that he, even unconsciously, he won't that laptop go out.
I think that Freudian theory is very possible that Hunter Biden, who was feeling extremely angry at the time he abandoned his laptop, did do it subconsciously as a way to spite his father. He loved his father, but he was also resentful of his father. Hunter himself was designated as the bag man to go out and do the dirty jobs to make money for his brother and his father so they could pose as, honest politicians who weren't very wealthy while having a Rolls-Royce lifestyle. He felt that he was being disrespected by his father and his father's campaign staff, that they had thrown him under the bus to the New York Times and had portrayed him as a drug addict who was a problem for poor Joe and a sort of an albatross around his neck during the campaign, someone who had to be managed. Whereas in Hunter's mind, he'd supported the entire family for 30 years.
I never thought they'd cover up the hard drive. I never thought they'd be able to censor the New York Post.
But not just the media, the entire apparatus of the attorney generals, of DAs,
Yes.
of the entire legal community basically has suppressed this.
Yes.
And likewise, what is the logic if you look at those cases, right?
I don't
as a
think
DA?
I think it would be simplistic. I think there's one logic, there's one thing that runs through it. I think it's a group of motives, and they all come together with the same answer. You have communists who are doing it to try to overthrow our government.
The elites of the government, who are the kind of the mandarins in the administrative state, in the deep state, merge with state capitalism. It's a system, and this is by our engagement with the Chinese Communist Party after Tiananmen Square with the Bushes. The argument was, the more they see capitalism, they're going to become more liberal democratically. Well, the exact opposite happened. Our elites took their model, which they said, hey, this model kind of works, where you have major, large state capitalists controlled by a central autocracy, and then you have a semi-feudal situation below. The United States has essentially become closer to what the Chinese Communist Party run China than it was about them becoming liberal Jeffersonian Democrats. And this is the system we have today. And that system rejected they thought that Trump in the Trump movement, in the America First. Remember, it's MAGA and America First. That America First, their heads blow up. They go, this will unwind everything. That's why they had to take out Trump, but particularly then take out the top lieutenants. They figured if we can take out Trump and his top lieutenants, this thing will just collapse, and they'll start watching Fox News again and believing what Rupert Murdoch's telling them.
You did serve your country in the U.S. Navy. You're now being betrayed and persecuted by your country.
Our country, the guys that listen to you and support you, we're being suppressed by, we're being oppressed by an illegitimate regime that usurp power here, and that's what we have to break. Now understand that this is a war to the knife, right? We have to win this. If we don't win this, this country is going to devolve into some kind of neo-Marxist totalitarian regime, of which it's pretty far down the road right now. That's why you have to understand we're in a political war, in an information war, and you got to start fighting like you're in a war.
But Marx makes it very, very clear that one of the things you want to do is overthrow the criminal justice system. I mean, they've done a pretty good job of overthrowing our educational system already. You can see it in the streets. They've done a very good job of taking kids away from parents. When a child can be mutilated without the permission of the parents, you're talking Karl Marx. I mean, you're talking Nazi Germany. So this is another in destroy the United States, so we become part of the Soros one world, the Klaus Schwab one world, which they think they're going to control, and lo and behold, China's going to control it, and the first group China's going to kill is them, if you read the history of communism. So that's that group. Then you have the group that is just straight out now, they're making a fortune.
And at this moment in time, our country needs us. And we need people like George Soros, who is fearless and willing to step up when it counts. So please join me in welcoming George Soros.
I am basically there to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
Other issues concerning all of humanity, fighting pandemics and climate change, avoiding nuclear war, maintaining global institutions, have had to take a backseat to that struggle. That's why I say our civilization may not survive.
We're saving the planet. We'll see. I don't think so. It doesn't look like it to me. And this is the most catastrophic issue here. And I look at that and I think, oh, I see. It's just like George Orwell said about middle-class socialists 50 years ago. It's not that you love the planet, it's that you hate humanity.
Yesterday, Musk launched a baseless Twitter attack against George Soros, the progressive Jewish philanthropist who's often the target of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Musk tweeted that Soros reminds him of Magneto, a comic book supervillain. Both, of course, Soros and Magneto are Holocaust survivors and Jewish. Musk's reply, he wrote, Soros does not have good intentions and, quote, wants to erode the very fabric of civilization. Soros hates humanity.
Have you ever met George Soros?
I never have, no. I only experience I had with George Soros is his ex-wife, who somehow was on the board of the Brooklyn Museum when I took away funding from them because they had an exhibit.
A depiction of the Blessed Mother adorned in elephant dung. The art, entitled The Holy Virgin Mary, has a new home. A billionaire hedge fund manager and art collector who purchased the painting years ago has donated it to the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan.
You know, it was really an anti-Catholic thing. You would never get away with it if it was an anti-Jewish or, you know, anti-Islamic piece of art, so to speak.
Supporting protesting Catholics during that time was then New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
I took away public funding, and I said that if you want to do that, you got to do it with private money.
In Ukraine, right now, tonight, Christians are being persecuted by the state we're paying for.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's moving to impose limitations on religious organizations.
For the crime of belonging to the wrong religion, priests are getting thrown in jail. Churches are being seized by the government. So it's very hard to get information about what is actually happening in Ukraine because the big media outlets lie about it assiduously.
There is not a hint of democracy. The country is run by an organization called the SBU, the secret police. It is rare to feel the level of oppression and fear, and I've never seen parliamentarians as cowed and as frightened as I saw in the Rada of Ukraine.
Для того, чтобы устроить эскалацию, конфликт, они заходят за все рамки возможные, которые только существуют. Им почему-то кажется, что нужно разорвать все скрепы, влезть в церковь, влезть в душу. Для Deep State и демократов это была история, навязчивая идея, обязательно расколоть все скрепы, побороться с историей наших трех народов, Украины, России и Беларуси. Для Зеленского это, опять же, поставленная задача, которую он реализует со стороны своей. Но, тем не менее, церковь же стоит, люди молятся. Это миллионы людей. Церковью руководит не Порошенко, даже не патриарх или какой-то митрополит, а Иисус Христос. Поэтому для них, для всех наступят рано или поздно определенные последствия.
This Biden thing didn't happen overnight. This has been a while. How did it happen? Who knew about it? What has been happening? Who's made decisions? What's been going on with this entire thing? You have to make this process so the American people throw up in their mouth as they search for the Messiah and then have the honeymoon. And the way you have to do it is toxify it now. That stink sticks to them.
Donald Trump didn't, I guess, know enough. And because there's so many layers upon layers of treachery and sabotage involved, it's taken a long time to unravel the Russia hoax. 4 years, pretty much. It's taking as long to unravel what happened in Ukraine, and really that Donald Trump was impeached for Joe Biden's sins.
Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never.